Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. Tomorrow is a big day. Maths paper 2 is just around the corner and I know you are all feeling the pressure. In this video, I will be sharing my top tips to help you to conquer Maths paper 2 with confidence. From time management to tackling tough questions, let's get started and make tomorrow a success. So Maths paper 2 was structured to make you excel. I advise you to start answering section B. This is because it requires more concentration and accuracy. It requires you to work it while you still have time, and try to spend 15 minutes on one question in section B. And the most easiest topic in section B is statistics. In June 2024, there was a question on cumulative frequency. So for November 2024, you need to expect either pie charts or a histogram. So in statistics, you need to be able to find the mode, the median, and the mean for grouped data. So if they ask you about the model class, it is the one that is having the highest frequency. And let us look at this question. So it was saying, state the model class. So the model class is the one with the highest frequency. Here we are having 5, 9, 18, and 10. So the highest frequency is 18. We are going to take our model class as 165 is less than h, which is less than or equal to 180. And then the median. Median is usually examined if it is frequency cumulative curve, and then average is going to be examined in each and every statistic question. You need to know how to calculate the average or the estimate of the mean. So this is how you do it. Let's say they ask you a question on estimate of the mean height. We are going to say summation of midpoints times frequency over summation of frequency. So here when we are calculating midpoint, the first group is having 150 to 160. So the average, we say 150 plus 160 divided by 2. We are going to get our answer is 155. And then we multiply it by 5, which is the frequency. We move on to the next category. It is having 160 to 165. The midpoint is going to be 160 plus 165 divided by 2, and we multiply by the frequency. We do that till we are done with all the categories, and then after that we divide by the summation of frequency. That is how we calculate estimate of the mean, and it is going to be carrying out 3 marks. And then again on statistics, they ask you about cumulative frequency, histogram, bar graphs, pie charts, and frequency polygon. So since in June 2024, there was a question in cumulative frequency. So for your November 2024, you need to expect either histograms or pie charts, and then there's a low probability that you can see a question on bar graph and frequency polygon, but the high probability is on histogram and pie charts. So this was a histogram for the question that was in November 2021. So usually when it is histogram, the first part of the question, you are going to be given an incomplete table, and you need to find the frequency density. You should know the formula of calculating frequency density. It is equal to frequency over class width. So make sure that you memorize this formula, because sometimes they are going to give you the class width and also the frequency density, but frequency missing, or they can give you class width and frequency while the frequency density is missing. So you just need to apply the formula. For finding M, our class width, we are going to say 30 minus 20 in order to get 10. And then the formula of frequency density, it is equal to frequency over class width. So here we want to calculate frequency. So we are going to multiply 1.4 times 30 minus 20, so that we are going to get our M as 14. And then the next one, it was saying we were required to find N, right, which is the frequency density. Frequency density is equal to frequency over class width. So our frequency is 2. Our class width, we say 35 minus 30, we get 5. So it is going to be 2 divided by 5 in order to get 0.4 is our frequency density. So make sure that you can do those calculations and you can state the model class. It is the one with the highest frequency. So here the highest frequency is 15. It means that the model class is going to be 15 to 20. And then calculate an estimate of mean height of the plants. This is where we are going to say summation of midpoints times frequency over summation of frequency. So we say 15 minus 10 divided by 2 times 10 plus 15 plus 20 divided by 2 times 15. We do that till we are done, and then we divide by the total number of plants, which is 50. And then part D, it was saying 2 plants are chosen at random. Calculate the probability that the heights of both plants are greater than 30 centimeters. So we are going to see a question on probability. If you are selecting from the same class, it is going to be having 2 marks. And then if you are selecting from different categories, it is going to have 3 marks. So you need to be prepared to take all the marks, right? So when you are selecting from the same category, in the second selection, both the numerator and the denominator, they are going to be affected. For example, here, it is saying 2 plants are chosen at random. Calculate the probability that the heights of both plants are greater than 30 centimeters. So greater than 30 centimeters, we are having 2 and 9, isn't it? So we are going to say 11 over 50. That is our first probability. And then the second probability, it is going to be 10 over 49, because we are selecting from the same class. So both the numerator and denominator, they are going to be affected. So it is going to be 11 over 50 times 10 over 49. That is going to be our answer. So as I told you, that if they ask you a probability from different categories, it is going to be having 3 marks. For example, in November 2007, I was saying if 2 patients are chosen at random, find the probability that one is at most 20 years old and the other is more than 60 years old. So we are selecting from different categories. So first, let us calculate the probability of at most 20 years. At most 20 years, it means 20 years and less, right? So 20 years and less, we are going to select this group and this group. So we say 60 plus 140 in order to get 200, and then the total is 1,750. So we are going to say, so we say 200 over 1,750, right? And then probability that one is more than 60 years old. So more than 60 years old, we are having this 60 to 70, which is 50. We are having 50 over 1,750, right? These are the probabilities of selecting, let's say, the one that is at most 20 years and the one that is more than 60 years old. And then when we are now calculating the probability, we are going to say either we select at most 20 years first, and then we then later on select the one that is having greater than 60, right? So when we are writing, we are going to say 200 over 1750 times. So the selection of the first, from the first category of having at most 20 years, it is going to affect the total. They are now going to be 1749. So we say times 50 over 1749, or, and if it is probability of or, we add, or we are going to first select greater than 60. So we write 50 over 1750 times, and then select at most 20 years old. It is going to be 200, but the denominator is now 1749. So we punch on the calculator and add. That is how we are going to calculate probability if we are selecting from different categories. And then last question was on representing our solution on a histogram. So you need to know that histogram, the bars, they are going to be having no space between the bars, and our bars, they are going to have different width and different heights, and you need to label correctly. Here is where we are going to have our frequency density, and here we are going to have the quantity that is being analyzed. And then again on statistics, you need to be expecting to answer a question on pie charts. First one, it is saying the number of learners who said they preferred Shona. So we are going to say 120 degrees over 360 times 192. The number of learners who said they preferred accounts, it is 90 over 360 times 192. And then also you need to be able to calculate the angle values when you are given information. For example, here 40 learners said they preferred commerce. Find the value of P. So in order to find the value of P, what we need to do here is that we need to say 40 learners over 192 learners times 360 in order to find the angle of P. And then C, find 32 learners said they preferred history. Find the size of angle that represent other subject. So what we are going to do here is that we say 32 over 192 times 360 degrees, and then the value that we obtain, we are going to place it on the history, and then we deduct this 120 for history, for Shona, for history, for commerce, and for accounts, in order to get the angle for others. And also when it comes to pie charts, you need to be able to draw a pie chart. Your pie chart, you need to show clearly this information, how you have managed to calculate the angles, and you need to draw using a canvas. You need to draw the circle using a canvas, and then use a protractor to measure the angles correctly. And then don't forget to label that this is a pie chart that is representing this information. And also you need to provide the key. We are going to shade all the regions differently, and you say this pattern is representing geo, this one is representing science, this one is representing maths, and that is how you take all the marks. And then probability, if you are selecting from different categories, you need to know what to do. And if you are selecting from same category, you need to know what to do. I think we are done with final exam tips on statistics. Just to add on statistics, sometimes they can ask you about bar graphs. So when you are drawing bar graphs, you need to know that there's going to be an equal spaces between the bars. And also the bars, they are supposed to have the same width and different heights. And also make sure that you label your bar graph. And this is an example of a frequency polygon. Let us now move on to the next topic. So tomorrow in your section B, you're going to see a question on functional graphs. When it comes to functional graphs, you need to be able to find the missing values using the substitution method. Usually that is going to be the first part of the question. And then the second part, it is going to require you to draw a functional graph. So my exam tips here is that don't forget to label that this graph is y is equals to x squared plus y etc. Let me show you. So let's say you have drawn the graph. You're supposed to label like this, that y is equal to x squared minus 4x. And then you'll see a part where you are required to solve equation using the graph. Please make sure that you don't work it. You use the graph to find the solutions. For example, here we are having this graph which is saying y is equals to 3 minus x, right? And also we are having this curve which is saying y is equal to x squared minus 4x. So when you are solving equation, you're going to write the x values where the curve is intersecting with this line. They are intersecting here and also here. So you write the x coordinate where they are intersecting. That is going to be the solution of the equation. And then you need to be able to find the maximum and minimum value on the graph. So if the graph is facing upwards, they are going to ask you about the minimum. And when the graph is facing downwards, they are going to ask you about the maximum, right? So you need to write the y coordinate where the curve is turning. You're supposed to write the turning point of the curve. For example, on this graph, here is our turning point. So it means that the minimum value of the graph is going to be y is equal to minus 4. You will see a question on finding area on specified portion of the graph. So let's say the graph is curved. You need to come up with trapeziums and you add the area together in order to find the area. For example, in November 2023, it was saying find the area bounded by the graph, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the line x is equal to minus 2. So you need to pay attention to see the area you are supposed to find, right? The portion that you are supposed to find the area. So the question is saying area bounded by the graph, the x-axis, the y-axis, and also the line x is equal to minus 2. So this is the region that is being described. And we are going to divide our area into trapeziums. We have this trapezium A from this portion to this portion. We find the area of this portion. And also we find the area of this trapezium and the area of this trapezium. We add together in order to find the area bounded by the graph, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the line x is equal to minus 2. On your functional graphs, you are going to be asked about finding the gradient and also the equation of line of symmetry. So when you are calculating the gradient, make sure that you draw a tangent correctly and you find the gradient of that tangent. For example, in November 2023, it was saying use the graph to find the gradient of the graph when x is equal to minus 2. This is our x is equal to minus 2. We are going to draw a tangent that is in line with x is equal to minus 2. And then we take endpoints that lies along that gradient, that tangent. And then we find the gradient by saying change in y over change in x. And also you can be asked about equation of line of symmetry. Line of symmetry is going to divide the graph into two equal halves. For example, in June 2024, this was our equation of line of symmetry, right? You are going to take the turning point of the graph and to draw a vertical line that is in line with that turning point of the graph. And you see the x-coordinate where that line is passing through. Here it is passing through, x is equal to -½ That is going to be our equation of line of symmetry. And then when it is a velocity time graph that is curved, if they say find acceleration and find distance, you need to know what to do. When they say find acceleration, the same way you calculate the gradient is the same way you calculate the acceleration. And if they say distance traveled, the same way you calculate the area is the same way that you are going to calculate the distance traveled. So this was June 2011. It was saying find the acceleration of the particle when t is equal to 3 seconds. So we are supposed to draw a tangent that is in line with 3 seconds, and we find the gradient of that tangent. And then on part 3, the distance traveled by the particle from t is equal to 0 to t is equal to 5. So we are just going to calculate the distance. Let me show you on the graph paper. So this is our June 2011. So when t is equal to 3 seconds, it is here. We are going to find the gradient. That is going to be our acceleration. And then the distance traveled by the particle from t is equal to 0 to t is equal to 5. We need to find this area. So I have divided the portion into, we are having this trapezium A, trapezium B, trapezium C, trapezium D, and triangle E. So we are going to find area of these trapeziums and triangle and sum together in order to find the total distance traveled. So sometimes they can draw for you. For example, here in June 2013, it was saying the diagram shows the graph of the function y is equal to x plus 1 squared times x minus 2. Use the graph to answer the following questions. Write down the roots of the equation. So here we are going to take the point where the line x is equal to 0 is intersecting with the graph. They are intersecting at this point and this point. So we write the x coordinates and then find the coordinates of the point where the gradient of curve is 0. They are just asking the turning points. So we are going to write our coordinate here and our coordinate here. And then part C, state the range of values of x for which the function is positive. From this region, we are having negative. It is in the negative region, but the moment it reaches 2, it is now in the positive region. So we are going to write x is greater than 2. And then find the gradient of the curve at the point where x is equal to 1.5. So this is our 1.5. We draw our tangent here and we find the gradient. And then use the graph to solve the equation x plus 1 squared times x minus 2 is equal to -2. So what we are going to do here is we draw our line, which we are going to name y is equal to -2. So it is this line. And then to solve the equation, we are going to write the x coordinates where the line and the graph are intersecting. So we write our -1.7, our 0, and 1.7 is the solution of the equation. And then last part, find the area bounded by the curve, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the line x is equal to 1. This one is roughly a trapezium, so we just need to find area of trapezium. Or another method is that we are going to say area of this rectangle minus area of this triangle in order to find the area of this trapezium. I hope you are now ready to answer a question on functional graphs. You are going to see a question on vectors in your Maths paper 2, section B. You need to be able to calculate the vectors, show that the vectors reduces to given expressions, find the values of letters given and substitute given value, and find ratio of area. That is how vectors are examined. So here, expressed in terms of x and or y, AC. We want to move from A to C, so it is going to be AO plus OC. And for AO, we have changed the direction, so it is going to be minus x plus y. That is what is important when it comes to vectors. And then AD. To find AD, there's missing information here. Let me look for the question direct from the question paper. So it is saying the diagram shows a trapezium OABC where OC is parallel to AB. OA is x, OC is y. Diagonals OB and AC intersect at D such that AD is to DC is 3:2, right? So what we are going to do here is that if we say vector AD is to DC, it is 3:2. So it means that our AD is going to be 3/5 of AC. So we write it is 3/5 of vector AC, of which on AC we obtained minus x plus y. So we say 3/5 times minus x plus y. So make sure that you expand here. We are going to write our final answer is 3/5 y minus 3/5 x. So make sure that you are ready to find the values of h, x, and y, and also to use the results above to find the numerical values of h and numerical values of k. This is how they usually examine you on vectors. So in your section B, you are going to see a question on linear programming. You should be able to interpret inequalities from given diagrams. This one is usually examined in paper 1 like this. And then sketch inequalities on the graph paper. Sometimes they are just going to give you inequalities and they ask you to sketch them on the graph paper. And also you need to be able to solve the word problems on inequalities graphically. This is the part they are more interested in. If you see many question papers, they are going to be word problems on inequalities. So make sure that you understand the languages. If they are saying at most, it means less than or equal to. And then if they say at least, it means greater than or equal to. So make sure that you understand that when you are plotting, if it is greater than or equal to, or if it is less than or equal to, it is going to be a bold line. And then if it is strictly less than or strictly greater than, it is going to be a broken line. So make sure that your graph is well presented. You label all the lines, and when you are labeling, you don't write y is less than or equal to 4, but you need to put the equal signs, right? And you label the x-axis, the y-axis. Let's say it is a word problem on inequalities. Maybe the y-axis is represented by apples, the x-axis is represented by bananas. You label that. And also don't forget to label that this is the wanted region. All the lines, they are supposed to be labeled. And also you're going to be asked questions on finding maximum and minimum values. It is a matter of comparing the corner points of the wanted region. You compare here, you compare also here, you compare here, and compare here in order to find the maximum and minimum values from the graph. So this was the solution of linear programming that was in November 2021. So at most is less than or equal to, and at least is greater than or equal to, right? And if you are now finding the maximum number of medium size, it is a matter of comparing the corner points of wanted region. Isn't here? This is our wanted region. So we are going to compare here, here, and here. And we specify that in y-axis, it is representing the medium size copies, and also this one is representing pocket size edition copies. So I think that is what you need to know when it comes to linear programming. In your section B, you can see a question on bearing and trigs. You should be able to calculate the three-figure bearing, that is the true bearing, and also compass or quadrant bearing. Be able to apply the Pythagoras theorem. Let's say it is a right-angled triangle, and also the trig ratios. They only apply to right-angled triangles, and then other triangles, we are going to use the sine rule, the cosine rule, to find the missing angles and distances. So make sure that you are perfect. And the exam tips that I can give you here is that the angles, they are rounded to 1 decimal place, and then the distances you round to 3 significant figures if they don't specify the accuracy. So this was a question in November 2016. In the diagram, C is 8.3 kilometers on a bearing of 140 degrees from V, and D is 6.2 kilometers on a bearing of 264 from V. Calculate the length of CD, 5 marks. So you need to know the formula of calculating the length of CD. If we are given an included angle and also two sides that surrounding the angle, we are going to apply the cosine rule of finding sides. So you need to place small letters on your diagram. They are placed opposite of the capital letter. For example, here, this is our C. Our small letter C is going to be here. This is our D. Our small letter D is going to be here. This is our V. Our small letter V is going to be here. So we want to calculate V, and then the cosine rule. The cosine rule, we're saying V squared is equal to C squared plus D squared minus 2CD cos V. So you substitute correctly. We say 6.2 squared plus 8.3 squared minus 2 times 6.2 times 8.3 cos, and then we need to take this angle. We are not going to write 264. We need to find the angle that is inside the triangle. So to find this angle, we are given that from this to this point we are having 142, and this one, the overall is 264. So the one that is within the triangle, we say 264 minus 142. That is the angle that we are going to substitute here. I hope we are now ready when it comes to trigs. And then part B, calculate the bearing of D from C. So you need to know that bearing is measured from the north. So the bearing of D from C, we need this angle. So this question is requiring you to find this angle, right? In this angle, and then you deduct from 360 in order to find this overall angle. And then next one, it is saying calculate the distance that D is to the west of C. D is to the west of C. You need to draw a horizontal line here, and you come up with a right-angled triangle, and then you use the trig ratios, that is Chashotau, in order to find that distance, that horizontal distance. We are going to see a question on transformation. You need to be able to transform object into image. to describe 6 different types of transformation. When you are describing, for example, translation, you state that it is translation and also write the translation vector. So when it is translation, both the image and object, they are going to be congruent and facing same side. And then reflection, you need to state that it is reflection and give the equation of mirror line. So when it is reflection, the image and object, they are going to face exact opposite direction, and then they are going to be congruent. And then rotation, you need to state that it is rotation. You write the angle of rotation, the direction and center of rotation. So when it is rotation, the image and object, they are congruent, but they are not facing same direction, and also they are not facing exact opposite direction. And then when it is enlargement, you state that the transformation is an enlargement. You state the scale factor and center of enlargement. And then when it is stretch, you state that it is stretch. You state the invariant line and also the stretch factor. And then finally, shear, you need to state that it is shear, the invariant line and shear factor. So this is an example of translation. Can you see B and A, they are congruent and facing same direction. And then A to D, it is rotation. Can you see that they are congruent, but they are not facing exact opposite direction or facing same direction? So we are going to say there's rotation. And this is an example of enlargement from A to C. It is going to be enlarged having the same scale factor. They're going to be having the same angles but different length. This is an example of enlargement, and when the image is facing upside down, there is a scale factor that is negative, right? And this is example of reflection. We talk about the mirror line and also the object and image, they are facing exact opposite direction. And this one is an example of stretch. What happens in stretch is one of the sides is going to be preserved, while least other sides, they are going to be stretched. Can you see PQ, you're having 1 centimeter, one box, right? Or 2 centimeters. And then here we are also having 2 centimeters. But PR, it was stretched. RQ, it was also stretched. This is an example of stretch. And this one is an example of shear from A to C. Can you see now that it is deformed? And this is an example of a diagram that shows shear. So after you are done with your section B, you move on to section A and you draw your locus in construction. It is going to be carrying 11 to 13 marks, and you need to be able to take all the marks. When it comes to locus in construction, you should be able to construct 90 degrees, 45, 60, 30, 120, 135, and also 150 degrees. You need to be able to construct perpendicular bisector and angle bisector to describe locus and shade the wanted region. When you are asked locus that is equidistant from a fixed point, you construct a circle. If it is locus equidistant from 2 fixed points, you are going to construct a perpendicular bisector. If it is locus equidistant from straight line, you construct parallel lines. And then if it is locus equidistant from 2 intersecting lines, you are going to draw an angle bisector. And then in your section A, I didn't manage to see your maths paper 1. I could have predicted better the topics that are going to be in your section A. But in general, you need to be able to calculate a question on circle geometry. It is usually examined both in paper 1 and paper 2. And also you need to understand the word problems on consumer arithmetic. Usually you are going to see word problems that require everyday mathematics or consumer arithmetic that requires you to apply percentage increase and percentage decrease, right? And also you can see a question on sets, but when it comes to sets, it is going to be word problems on sets. So make sure that you understand the set notation, etc. And also you can be asked on partial variation, carrying out 6 to 7 marks. Make sure that you understand how to solve a simultaneous equation. I heard some of you, they were saying there was no simultaneous equation in paper 1. So it is going to be there in your paper 2. Maybe it is going to be a word problem on simultaneous equations, or it is going to be partial variation that requires you to solve using the simultaneous equations. So in section A again, you can see a question on changing subject or formula. You need to be prepared to answer such a question. And also, I heard some of you saying that there was no question on logarithms. So you're going to see a question on logarithms. Either it is going to require you to solve a logarithmic equation, and you finish off that question applying the quadratic formula to find the values of x, right? Or it is going to be of solving an exponential equation that will end up requiring you to find the value of x using the quadratic formula. So this marks the end of our tutorial today on last minute tips for your November 2024 Maths Paper 2. I wish you all the best, guys. This is Eve signing out.